Hi everyone. For this card we're going to do, I'm going to try something. I'm going to do a bit of masking, and then I'm going to use, so we're going to do two types of masking. So we're going to have good old post-it notes, then we're going to use some masking fluid and I'm using Winsor & Newton's one, and then I'm also going to use Distress Resist spray. Say that 3 times fast. So hopefully this will work. You'll obviously see the video as I do it bit by bit, and I will have to cut where I will need to let things dry, but let's see how we go. So I need some blocks, that would be useful. Acrylic blocks, always helpful. It's funny, I've just done another video and yeah, I've packed everything away apparently. Got some scissors, we'll need those. So I'm using Lawn Fawn's Pick of the Patch stamp set today, and yeah, it's very cute. I love that he has a little knife. I think that's kind of funny, but anyway. So let's see how we're going to do this. So I do want a few pumpkins down this end. Just going to open this up. Just put that there. So let's start with, say, this little guy. And I'm just going to use some extreme black ink. That way it's permanent. So if I decide to watercolor the images, I know that they are, you know, it's not going to go anywhere. So in my mind, I've taped down a piece of watercolor cardstock. You can use any kind you like. This is W.H. Smith's. And in my mind I've got kind of a line, if you like a hill. You could also draw it in pencil, but bear in mind that if you use sprays or inks and things like that, just bear in mind that if you land up covering it, you may not be able to get rid of that line. So I'm trying to create something that sort of looks like there's a hill, but you can't really see it. So somewhat of a visual thing here. So let's stamp this one first. So he worked out quite good. My little chamois on the side. That's what the squeaking is. And I'm going to then, oh silly me, I needed to mask him. So every time you've got an image, you're basically working from, Sandy Allnock said this, and I thought that makes perfect sense actually, that you're working from the front, no, from the back to the front, no, the front to the back. So whatever's in front is what you stamp first, and then you mask that off to stamp the thing that's going to go behind it. I have to always think about what I'm doing with it, so bear with me. We're on this together. So this is just some really easy masking. This is just posted paper. You can use regular copy paper will do, with a bit of what's it called, like removable adhesive on the back. That will work too. So we're going to just stick this over the top here. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just to get your images on so that you know, so you can start to space them out. So we go with another one. So I think I might have him this has gone the wrong way around in my head, but we're just gonna wing it. We're just winging it. So I've got that guy, and I think what I'm going to do is do the little one on the other side, if I can get him. So we don't need to mask those, I don't think. Or do I? Do I want to mask this one? No. So what I now want to do is I want to get, this is the food if you like. Do I want that? No, I don't want that yet, do I? I'm not sure. You hear the cogs going in my head trying to work this out. Right, so over here I'm going to have this pumpkin. So this is the one that's open with all the guts, if you will, that will be coming out of it. So it's just and also once you've made a mask you can keep them just with the stamp set that you've got, or that they sort of come from. So I could put all these little masks on just on the sheeting of the stamp set, and that way you've always got them there. So this is the food, or the innards. So let's see. Don't know how well that's done, but we'll see. I'm not sure if we're supposed to go in there actually. Thinking about it. No, perhaps not, but that's fine. We'll make it work, right? Right. And then I'm just thinking, I might just have, see, so this one I was going to put the lid in the front, and I should have done that before I did the other part of it, so I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to, and I probably should have done that one first as well to get it to look like that. So we'll do something else with the lid. I'll put it somewhere else. Let's get these guys stamped. So this little squirrel guy having a right party over here. So he's there. And then this guy's here. Oh, I didn't stamp too well, but I don't want to double stamp, so that's fine, we'll leave it. Okay. What else do we want? Now I do want the knife to be laying somewhere. So if I think about this, the knife could just be sat. I love stamp sets like this. I think they're so funny. And then he could have, sorry about that, the camera died. Then I'm thinking he could be holding a spoon, or whatever this spatula-y thing is. There is a bit of overlap, so if you wanted that perfect you'd have to mask each and every piece. So I'm not too worried, because by the time I've coloured them in you're not going to really notice that. But it looks like they're having a grand old time there. So, I think I will put some more of the food here. Maybe just a mound of it there. It's not food, it's the innards. Just so it kind of fills some of the gaps there. Do I want more? Maybe another bit down here. You're basically creating the scene. I kind of feel like I need this somewhere. But I don't know where I'm going to put the old lid. Yeah, that's quite a lot going on there, isn't it? So maybe I'll just leave it like that. I think I need more food though. Is that really funny? Need more food. Let's have another splodge of it down here. I keep calling it food, it's not the food, is it? It's the innards, the innies. Right, so now I want to create some faces on these guys. So if I take off what I've masked, say that 3 times fast, musketed. So do you see how this guy's in front of these two? That's one of the main things to show you. So now I'm going to take the faces, because you've got to have the faces. I think they're hysterical as well. I love them. So I think we'll have that one there. Oh, how cool does he look? And then we'll have, I think this one has to go on the one that's been, you know, mutilated. Because he's like, oh my hat, they've just destroyed me. And then let's have a girl face. You know, you get girl pumpkins. You don't have to put the faces on, you can just have them as pumpkins, which is great. But I like the pumpkin faces. I just think they're great. So, I think that's all I'm going to do at the moment for, there are some extra bits and things in there, but I think for now that's what I'll do stamping wise. So the next thing is to mask all of it off, or all of the images off, so that you can start to, with the liquid masking, pardon me, so that you can then start to build, and don't worry about how big this is either, because I can cut this piece down. It is bigger than it's supposed to be. So yeah, so I've got this lovely little, so you could make this into a long card. I might do that actually, just a long thin card. But what I need to do now is just mask off all these. So just to fix that quickly, this is just a Derwent graphic marker in 0.5, and I'm just going to outline this image, because this one didn't stamp, well, I didn't stamp it as well as I could have. So that just does that. Then I need a trusty paintbrush, which oh, there it is. I knew I had a masking one because they do get a bit gummy in that, so I actually labelled it masking. I do the same with the bleaching one. So if you're using bleach for technique, mark your actual, what's it called, brush. So I just stick a label around it. So I've got to shake, shake, shake. Shaky, shaky, shaky. Oh, right. And then, oh, a bit gummy in there, lovely. That's essentially what it does, it gums up. So, I think what I might do is actually just bring some, we're just going to go for it from the bottle. So you just grab some paint, some masking fluid, and then just paint over the images. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you want enough covering, enough of your image covered so that it protects it when you put other stuff on top. That's the whole thing with your masking. Just mixing it in here because it's a bit, it's got a bit goopy. Nice. Not exactly what you want, but hopefully this will work, or maybe I just need some new stuff. And all it's going to do is it's going to cover up where you don't want anything, you know, like splatter, or if you're doing your background, you know, you might want to leave it on while you do that as well, so that you can get your lines and you don't have to worry about trying to go around the images. So this is what you could do for like essentially a one layer card. Which I love. I love seeing other people create these, because it's so clever to watch how it all comes together. And I'm not clever, so I like learning from all of you. But hopefully I can teach some of you how to do this as well. Right, so it takes a little bit of time, but nothing too testing. The longest time probably is while you wait for it to dry. You need it to be dry before you start doing anything over the top of it, otherwise it will just come off, and obviously you don't want that. So I'll read the bottle in a minute and just see what it says for time as a guide, but it depends on the product, because there's quite a few different products out there that do this. You know, different companies make different masking products, so you might want to check that out. The alternative is to use, if you don't have time, because obviously this takes time to do this part, and then you know you have to wait for it to dry, and then you can come back in and do what you need to do. If you don't have time for that, you can always just cut your masks out using post-its or some actual masking. There is a product, masking paper, out there, so you could use that instead. But obviously when you start to layer ink on top, the paper may lift, so that's something to consider. So that's done. So that didn't take that long, I don't think, anyway. So let me just get some sort of wipe. Hold on a second. Right, so I've cleaned off my brush. You could use a baby wipe, you could go and rinse it under water and all that. That seemed to work fine for now, just a, you know, wipey thing. Just to clean it off, otherwise it will get all gummy on there, and like I say, the bristles will eventually, you'll need a new brush because it will gum them up. So now we need to wait for that portion to dry. So I'm just gonna have a little read. Doesn't actually say on here how long it takes to dry, but you know, you'll know when it's dry because you'll be able to feel. But I would say leave it, if I'm being conservative, I would say at least half an hour. So I'm going to leave this here, and I will come back when it is dry, and we can start working on the next bit, which will be this stuff. This I've used once or twice, not in a video, but I've used it a couple times and it's so cool. Like, wow. Anyway, so it's like splatter effect without the splatter. Well, not without the splatter, but without doing the things that you would do to create splatter, like with paints, or you know, opaque white has been used before, even just with water, to create this splatter effect on like distressed products. So this is a bit of a newbie for me, so we'll use that. And then when we've done that part, we're then going to, and that's dry, and this doesn't actually take long to dry, I believe. This is fairly quick. Again, it doesn't really say on here, but yeah, we just let it dry again. So there's a lot of drying time with this particular project, but I think it will be worth it in the end. And what we'll do is we'll create, while everything's masked, so we won't take the masking off here, and we won't take, well, you leave the resist on there. We'll create the line that I was thinking of here for the creatures and we'll use ink to do that. So hopefully that won't rub off when I do that. We'll see. Or what I might do instead is just use watercolor, because this is watercolor paper. So I may actually change my mind on that and just use some watercolor paints, and just create. I might get my Gansais out. I haven't used those for so long, so I might grab those and use some of those colours, just to create the, what is essentially, just so it looks like a background, if that makes sense. So you'll have, you know, your ground and then your sky, and then we'll move on to things like the actual sentiments and all that kind of fun stuff, and colouring these guys in as well. So actually, if I'm painting the background, then I'll paint the images as well. So I think that's what we'll do, but I'll be back when this is dry. Right, I'm back. Excuse me. I actually ended up leaving this overnight because some stuff happened and I had to sort that out. So that's how it goes. So this has actually had overnight drying time, but it's kind of got like a tacky feel to it. Now I don't know if that's normal, because I don't know whether this is just old. I don't even know what year this is from, but we're going to go with it, and it worked last time I used it, so that's fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another layer on. These are all masked off, I can't say that word, and I'm going to use the Distress Resist spray now, and I'm just going to spritz over this whole panel, and you'll see what will happen. You might not be able to see it on camera now, but when we then paint over it when it's dry, then you'll see the reveal of it. So I'm just going to gently, it's just got a little spray nozzle, oh. Right, just like that. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to tidy the bits around the edge up with some something. just because I don't need this sticking to everything. So I'm just cleaning up around the edges, and like I say, I don't know if you can see, I don't know if you've realised some of it that went on to the mat. You can kind of see it came up sort of almost like a blue haze to it, which is kind of funny. So I've never done it on this mat before. This is a Tim Holtz media mat, by the way, and I can do a review on it if anybody wants to know, but there's loads of videos out there already, but I'm happy to do one. I love this thing. So far so good. It's just a very cool glass mat, and I never thought I'd go back to a glass mat. I've tried them in the past and didn't really like them, but so far so good, so that's all good. So while this squeaky, while this dries, I will go and do something else, and then I'll come back when it's dry, then we can start to paint. Right, so this should be nicely dried, and this resist you won't actually take off, that will stay on there, but this obviously we'll remove that once the rest of it's dry. I have two jars of water, one for clean, one for dirty, and I have a couple of brushes here. So I've got a Daleroni Graduate 12 round. I also have a Royal 10. I don't know if this is Royal Lanical. I don't even know how to say that. But this is a size 10, and only because I don't know which size I wanted to use. And then I've got a 5, which hopefully I'll be able to do all these guys with, although I might need a slightly smaller brush for that. So I'm going to start, I think, oh, let me tell you the rest of it. So I've got my Gansai Tambi watercolors here, and I've got number 54, which the colours aren't on here. It doesn't tell you the name of the colour. Well, it might have done on the pamphlet-y thing, but I didn't keep that. Or it might be in another drawer. But I've got number 54, 42, 38 and 67, and these are going to be for my ground and my sky, which is what we're going to do next. So what I think I'll do, I'll start with the bigger brush. Let's do this. I think I'm going to do what will be my which one do I want to do? Let me do my moon first. That's this colour. So I think actually I'm going to switch to this slightly smaller one, and I'm just going to get some colour in, some water in here. And don't forget, you can always smush it on your glass mat if you need to. So I'm thinking a moon about here. I'm just going to wing it, and you'll start to see all the resist come out. And don't forget, it doesn't have to be perfect. So just like that. That's my moon. So I think what I'm going to do next is actually the oh, what I need is paper towel. Next I think I'll do the ground. So I'm just going to put that to one side. And the reason I'm going with the ground next is because I want that to dry a bit before I put any other colour up there. So same thing again, I'm just going to grab some water. And this is kind of a, I want to say a dirty kind of green. So yeah. So I'm going to say they're going to be sitting about here. So I'm just going to paint the whole thing in. So I'm hoping this turns out kind of how I was thinking it would, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And remember, your little critters down here will resist all the moisture because you've got that masking fluid over the top. And anywhere, I don't know if you can start to see it, but anywhere that you've got the splatter from the Distress Resist spray will also resist. So, now because this is a bigger area, I am going to switch to the bigger brush for these two colours now. So let me just put them in the order I want them in, because the one is more purple and one is more, the 38 is more of the purple and the blue is the 67 which are now off screen, sorry, but you'll see in a minute. So I'm just gonna get nice, in fact I might do something a bit different here. I might wet the paper a bit. I'm just being careful around my moon. And in fact, if we leave a slight white border around there, it should give the illusion of like a halo. And then be careful, obviously, because the paint that is sitting on top of the resist down here will still be wet. So right, so let's go in to this colour. It's a lovely colour. And then you'll see I'm no expert, so you know, we're just winging it. But sometimes the water will do the work for you, so just want to intensify the colour. So let's see, we can add a bit more here. Alright, so what I will do is go back with my yellow. Do you see how it's bleeding in slightly? It's because the blue paint's still wet. So, not exactly what I had in mind, but it will work. So I'm just going to grab some of the purple now, which is very intense. so I want to be kind of careful with it. Kind of what I want to do is try and blend the two. Which I know it looks a mess right now. Just persevere. I promise it will all come together. Right. So I quite like how dark it is up here, but I'm gonna get a bit of that off. It's almost like there's too much liquid more than anything. Right. Look at that. It's coming together. And can you see the splatter coming through as well? Which I think is really nice. So I'm just going to get my heat tool quickly. And we're just going to dry it or help it. Right, so just a little bit of drying, and I actually quite like the way it's turned out. I even like the moon. I think it's turned out alright. It's not typical moon, but I like the reaction between the two colours and the water around it. I think it's given it a different kind of moony look, if you will. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm gonna leave it where it is for that. So now I think we're ready to actually get these bits off so that we can reveal the creatures underneath. So this is mostly dry, but you know, you obviously want to leave it a bit longer. This is going to be not only a long video, so if you're still with me, fab. But it's also going to be a much bigger card because I didn't think about, like, if I wanted it to fit on an A2 card, I would need to have drawn out an area in pencil so that I could know what area I was working within, whereas I haven't done that. So we'll see what happens. Right, so to get this off, you can either use your fingers just to gently rub the goop off, but the alternative is to use an eraser. If I can find it. It's one of these things, and it's an adhesive eraser, that's what it's called. So it should be so much easier to use this than to use your fingers. And you see, it just kind of peels off in this goopy let's face it, it looks like a bogey, and that's how it comes off. Sorry, that's probably just grossed you out, but that is what it comes off like. But you see how easy it is? And when you reveal underneath, and also if you've done it well, it shouldn't have leaked underneath when you've used your water product and that. So this is where this works much better than a paper version, because obviously with paper you're going to have that problem of paper, like here where the tape's lifting because of the moisture. So that's the only problem with, you know, using a paper, you know, like a post-it note to mask, or even masking paper. Eventually it will get quite gummed up, not gummed up, too moist. That's that. So let's get this one on. Oh, there's some, oh no, it's because I haven't taken it off. Now suddenly we have our creatures. Right, so that's that. So I think what I might do now is, and you'll just sort of rub your finger over it just to check that there aren't any other goopy bits, but you shouldn't have any. Right, so, and also it protected your images from the splatter that we did on the background, so they'll be nice and smooth, so you've got smooth images whereas you've got your splatter in the background as opposed to on your images as well. So nothing wrong with that, you can do that totally, but I think this makes the background its own part of the image. So I think what I might do, because I know this is a very long video, I might speed up this bit and just have, or speed up the next bit, and just get these guys coloured in, and I'll be back with all the card part. We still need to do our sentiment, which will go up here somewhere. So yeah, I'll see you in a minute. Right, so this is what it has turned out like. I tried to use a die set from Fawn to see whether I could get it to fit as an A2, but I've actually gone wider across here than I expected, so it's going to be a very large card compared to what I normally would do. So I tend to stick with standard sizes just because it's easy for mailing and things like that, but I'll see what I can trim off. I'll neaten it up and trim off the edges, but this is just where the tape was stuck. So I also added, just so you know what I was doing, I added some silver. It's not actually silver, I think it's a white. It's also in the Gansai Tambi. It's the 36 palette, and there's a copper, a gold, and a, I suppose it's a silver, but it looks more white. And I went over the top of the where I'd gone on with some black or grey paint mix to make them look like utensils, if you know what I mean. So the next thing I want to do is the what do you call it, the sentiment. So I'm not going to stamp directly on here because I think that would, knowing me, would mess it up. So I'm going to use some black cardstock. Just get that out of the way. And this is just a scrap piece of black cardstock that I've got here, so hopefully it won't. Just get the brushes out of the way. Driving me mad. Right. And I've got some Versamark ink that I'm going to use and some blocks, and I'm just going to stamp a bunch of the sentiments. So I thought the sentiment that said "I've carved out to say" was kind of funny. And I'm going to do, I think I'm just going to do Happy Halloween. Come back. So those are the stamps I'm going to need. I think that's what I'm going to do. So it says I've carved out time to say Happy Halloween, or have a very happy Halloween. Say, no, let's just go with Happy Halloween. Right, the other thing I need is an EK Success powder tool. So, oh, this block is filthy. So I've got that on that one. Let's just get these fired and ready to go. Somewhat straight on the blocks. And I might be off camera for a second just because I'm going to use the edge as much as possible and try and stamp these. Actually, if I go this way, you'll be able to see better. If I go that way. I just want to use the edge of the cardstock as a guide. So, powder tool across the bottom. It stops, in case you don't know, it stops any static or oils from your hands. And the camera looks like it's gone a bit mad with the black here. It stops the oils from sticking to everywhere else on the cardstock, so basically when you ink up your stamp it will only stick to the ink, not everything else. So let's do this first one. Get it really inked up, make sure I've got it the right way, and I will attempt to have stamped that straight. And I'm going to do something a little bit different for me. So I'm not worried about lining these up next to each other or anything. I just want to get them on the cardstock. And then I'm going to bring in, this is a coffee filter. You can use a piece of paper, and this is some Stampin' Up! White embossing powder, and we're just gonna chuck it on there basically. And I think I need a bit more here. And there's our sentiments ready to be embossed. Nice thing about the coffee filter is that you can sort of curl it and then just put your embossing powder back in the tub without having to fling it everywhere, because it, like glitter, it will get everywhere. So I'm just going to heat these up, so apologies for the noise, but hopefully you can see. Oh, I've just knocked it. What not to do. Don't knock it when you're trying to well, when you're trying to film. Right, let's try again, shall we? Right, so again, I'm not like, I love white embossing powder on black like this, but I don't know, I never seem to get it right, so you know, I'll keep practicing. Right, so what I've done is I've trimmed this down, so it now measures roughly 6 by 4.5. So it's a very different size card to what I normally make. So to get the cardstock, this is Stampin' Up's a Night of Navy cardstock, and it measures 9 by 6, and then folded and scored and folded at 4.5. So that's the base for this baby, and it is a funny size, so I may need to trim a bit of the card down afterwards, or I may not. I might just leave it as it is. So we'll see what happens. So what I've done here as well, I think, oh yeah, so what I've done as well is I've got the sentiments, and all I did with the sentiments is you saw me heat emboss them, and then I just took a paper trimmer. You can do this by hand if you have quite a straight cut, and I just trimmed them down to these sort of like block words, and I quite like the look of that, so I'm going to go with that. And I've got some sticky stuff, so I think what I'll do is I'll try and get this piece on here first, and then we'll get the sentiment stuck on. So I've just got some double-sided tape, if I can say that. And I'm going to give you another little tip when you're trying to line things up, and you'll see that in a minute. So if I just get tape on, and just because this is watercolor paper and it may have warped a bit, I'm going to put some extra adhesive in the middle here just to try and hold it down. So if I just get all these bits off, I know you guys have seen this before, it's just a craft pick, and you know, it just helps to lift the tape. When you have nails like mine, you can't I can't grip things as well, but you know, you like to have your nice nails, so you just have to use something else. Or really, if you struggle to pick them off anyway, regardless of nails, some bits are just harder to get to, aren't they? So there we go. So, oh, didn't want to stick it to that. So if you've got a score buddy or some sort of scoring tool or some sort of tool where there's a lip here, you can use that as a guide to, in fact that's slightly lower that side, let's try this way around. You can use it as a guide when you want to put things onto a card. So actually I think I'm going to go this way. So I've got the scored edge here, the folded edge here, and I'm going to butt this up to the raised edge of the scoreboard, and hopefully it will somewhat line up on here. So I might need to do a little bit of trimming, but that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. So I need to trim down the side a little bit, just because there is a slight edge there. But I don't mind the bottom bit actually, being a little border there, but I think I'll probably trim it right down. So when you see the final bit, you'll see that that's all trimmed out. So on these, what are these things called? I can't talk today. Sentiment pieces. I'm just going to take some pop dots and I'm just going to cut them in half, and then I'm going to stick them on the back here. The whole ones might have worked, but I didn't want them sticking out or anything. Ooh. But it's nice to have some dimension. They probably would have actually worked, but whatever. We're going with this now, so oh, if I can get to them. Right. So let's see, where am I going to put these? So I think I want this at like an angle like so. Oh, I don't want that one yet. Right, sorry about that, my camera died. It ran out of space because this is how long it's taken me to do this card. Anyway, I was trying to figure out how to put these, and I think what I'd done is originally I had this one facing the other way, which is why I was faffing with this, so I don't actually know what footage you've been able to see of that, but I basically just stuck them on here with some foam dots. So it's a fairly flat card. It's not, you know, it's not, it'll mail fine, and it's the whole front of this particular size card. I've also trimmed it down because I thought it would just look better if it was on the whole front of the card rather than having just a tiny gap somewhere, you know, of the Night of Navy sticking out. So I thought I'd just give you another little look. So I don't know what you can see on camera, but in the light you can actually see where all the resist spray, it sort of shows up quite nicely and it sort of adds a bit of shine, but it's not super white. So the ink of the paint has kind of set on top a little bit, and then also I'm not sure if you can see the shimmer. Hopefully you can see some shimmer on the knife and the spoon, spatula, no, not spatula, spoon thing. So yeah, so I think it turned out really, really cool actually. I even, like I say, I really like the moon. I like the way it turned out. So there you go guys, a 1 layer with the exception of this, a 1 layer card using masking fluid, a resist distress spray and some Gansai Tambi watercolour paints. Easy. See you in the next one. Bye!